2-jet or 3-jet? Because they all know what jet protection is.
Right.
So 3-jet, which way am I turning if it's 3-jet?
3-jet, the line's turning right. He would
Okay.
need to get in the air gap.
There you go. That's the answer. And can you do that if you're under the center?
No.
No. We have collision there.
Right.
That's
What we tried to
terrific.
experiment with at Nebraska was with if these guys declared late and we were kind of stuck in it, the center would make a hard call. And, you know, again, this is everybody down. Now we're full slide, but we have the back.
That's okay. That's okay. I love that because that may not be the best matchup in the world, putting the back on a big. The good thing is you're protected right in front of you.
Right.
Because this kind of pressure is way tougher.
The ball's coming out quick.
That's right.
I mean, with this kind of pressure, the ball's coming out fast.
That's terrific.
So I can give them 3 answers.
Yep.
Really.
We were talking the other day about timing. At the combine, your answer is going to have to be pretty quick.
Right.
In the individual ones, pull up a chair.
Okay.
Let's talk about football. And I would tell you both for you and Andrew, and this is not being patronizing, but the eloquence of your answer makes such an impression versus, well, we rock over here. And the way you deliver the answer has to match the way the question is framed. That makes sense. Because
what I want them to see is when they ask the question like that, I want to say, well, there's 3 ways I can do it.
that's the answer.
And here's what we did at Yale. Here's what we did at Nebraska. I know some teams are, you know, using this here. Bam, bam, bam.
Well, see, that way, Patrick, you're not a one-trick pony.
Right.
Say, because there will be guys that are going to go in this meeting that have had a little background, and they're going to have one answer for all of that
Right.
stuff.
I mean, a lot of teams, you know, the spread teams especially, if they got something like that, their answer is, I'm probably going to get the ball out before it even matters.
Let me tell you what the common answer I heard 2 years ago was, I'm going to beat the blitz with the ball.
Yeah.
Meaning, you're coming, I'm throwing.
Yeah.
Well, great. That's like saying 2 and 2 is 4. Well, I knew that going in. So I like the answer of, I've got 3 ways to do this. And it not only shows that you're giving it some thought, but you're also taking into the account the variables of the defense. So they're not going to stand there in the same defense all the time. Your idea about the twist stunt, you have to be able to tell them that. I'm going to give you another test sheet, maybe tomorrow. And this goes along with the fronts. But you need to know there's like 30 of them.
Yeah.
What's a TEX stunt? T-E-X.
T-E-X, tackle and then cross.
That's very good. And the reason they say TEX, sometimes you get T, just T-E.
Yeah,
and whoever gets the first letter, if it's an eat stunt,
they go first.
that's the guy that goes first.
Because they're trying to get the guy to engage, right?
It's the whole idea. That's why when they draw it, they will draw it like this. Here's the center. And let's say we have something like this. If it's an eat stunt, it's going to be jam and loop. If it was a text stunt, it would be jam and loop. Because all you're really trying to do is, if this guy goes first, if he comes down first and we get this, that is a much shorter around the horn. Okay. If we get this one first, we get this engagement, this thing, sometimes they'll do this. But the whole idea is, if I give you the list, you can memorize it in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
They say, what's a text? What's a TED?
The most effective ones were the ones that got the end going inside.
That's right.
Because the tackle running the
think
hoop
about
is not great.
Just think about the body types. If you have Pierre-Paul coming down, and you had, no, those guys are all fast. Let's pick a better example. Let's put it this way. If they said, would you ever do this with the New England Patriots? No, because we don't have 3 days for Will Fork to run around the guy that's doing it. But plus he's a 2-gap tackle. Okay. Explain the difference between a numbers-based pass offense and a concept-based pass offense.
I'm most familiar with the concept-based pass offense. One word often speaks to several guys. I've been exposed to the numbers-based offense. especially in the All-Star game I just played, where, you know, the concepts are mainly the same. These are West Coast principles. So something like double wing right, 72 flanker drive, zebra rattle would translate to something like deuce right, 940 Ricky. So I mean, the play is going to
look.
look.
They're going to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the play is going to look exactly the same.
Yeah.
But concepts, drive tells number 1, he has the drive. Number 2, he has the basic. Number 3, which in this case is the back out of the backfield, he's got your check burst.
Yep.
In a numbers-based offense, it'll start from the X. Some teams start from the X. Some teams start left to right.
Left to right. That's good. Make that differentiation.
So the one that I was exposed to in this All-Star game was starting with the X. So if we're in something like a 2x2, actually we would probably be in red.
Split backs.
Split backs. We'd have 2 backs in the backfield, you know. So we'd start with the X, 9 running the go route, the 4 spoke to the tight end coming across on the basic or the dig, and then the 0 is the shallow cross coming across. And Ricky tells both backs they're checking and then releasing to the right.
To the right. What's release left? What's your word?
We didn't even use it in this game.
Okay.
If I was doing Ricky, I'd probably go
Ricky and Lucy.
Ricky and Lucy. Yeah. Names.
Those are. Okay. Let me give you one. What defensive alignment gave you the toughest challenge in college?
Brown ran. They would go in and out of different fronts. They'd stem in the middle of my cadence, which was difficult sometimes for
really?
linemen.
Yeah.
I saw the Patriots have success against the. Who did they just play? The Ravens.
Yep.
With that, they shut down their running game with just moving Will Fork and all these guys because your angles and your calls have to change. Brown, let's say we're in a 2x2 here. Let's call this guy. In our offense, we call them F. In Nebraska, we call them zebra. Just a simple 2x2, 11 personnel. They would come down. They would often be in a 25 front, so they'd have this safety, this guy down in the box. So here's your strong free safety back here. But this guy was really close. And what it allowed them to do is they'd be off here. Sometimes, you know, they stem, he comes down. Now they play this 2 invert.
I got you.
And they had 2 very active safeties. This guy was a really good player. He played the flats. He was a run support player. Now, what also allowed them to do is, obviously with this alignment, they could stay in 3, which they played quite a bit. They did play man. They'd come up and press, you know, was our key, because everything looks the same for the most part. But this guy would play the middle hole from a low alignment, and why it gave us so much problems when we played them is because our playmaker, who we played at every position to try and target him the ball,
So your dig guy?
he was out. And so we couldn't stretch the field. They had a really good corner locked up on our second best receiver, and we couldn't get the ball downfield. So they're playing this game, having a free safety added into the box, essentially playing an 8-man box against us. And we can't run the ball against it, and we can't stretch the ball downfield because our matchups aren't good.
I like that. I like that as an answer. Would you run the bang post against this? The bang post flat combination? Is that guy too good?
The problem was this guy worked more over the top.
Okay.
So if you run a bang, it turned into a dig.
And then it runs right into
And
the
this
3.
Will is...
Yeah.
So it was difficult. Where we had our most success was in our outside lane throws. But again, this guy was coached to run to the flats.
Yeah.
And this safety, if he was down here like he is on this side, you know, if this...
You know, that almost looks a little bit like that cover 5 thing where they could really double this guy if he's your best receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Lock him up here and bring these guys down in a high-low or a bracket.
Yeah. I mean, they would bracket stuff, but it looked weird because it was almost 3 deep. You know, you'd have the corners off like this, but you had guys so wide in the flats here that you couldn't just spit the ball out and run. I mean, these corners were like 10 yards, and we just didn't have the guys on the outside that we could give the ball to and make that guy miss consistently.
What is your definition of robber coverage?
Robber coverage, cover 1, safeties oftentimes are standing right next to each other, which is a dead giveaway. You know, if there's 2 guys in the middle of the field, there's going to be 1 guy in the middle of the field. Oftentimes teams, you know, some combination of Mike, Sam, and Will are coming down, We saw this oftentimes with this cross dog blitz on the inside. So the double A gap blitz, this guy sinks down and now plays man.
If you're killing somebody with the dig route, started seeing Robber many years ago on teams. And here's the reason that you won't see it quite as much in the NFL is, you know, we've been taught in college 2 on the hash. Well, 2 on the hash in the NFL, they could hold hands.
Mm-hmm.
So what we used to see is if it is Tampa 2 and those 2 guys are doubling outside, we're going to work the hole against that Mike linebacker.
Yeah.
Well, you would do that for a half, and then all of a sudden, the snap, the quarterback is seeing this. Now, the answer to that is hit the dig in window 1. He's taken away window 2.
Mm-hmm.
But if you combine Robber with really good Sam and Will deep drops, you can take the dig game away.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of the questions is they had him diagram what Robber is. I want you to use that explanation. I'm going to look in the middle. If I got guys that are close in the middle, let's forget the hashes for a second. But if they're close, one of them is going to be the post safety, and the other guy's going to come down and rob the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This guy usually walks down nice and gently.
Yep.
What gave me the most trouble, and I saw this quite a bit in the Ivy League, was unclear pictures. I operate best when I know what the defense is doing, and honestly, when I watch the NFL film, it is so clear what they're doing. You know, they'll have a free safety here, they'll have a guy start walking down here, and then on the snap of the ball, he takes off and runs, and he has to run out of here too. When I'm keying the safeties on the snap of the ball, I know exactly, I mean, no one's running back here unless it's cover 2.
That's right.
So it tells me exactly what they're doing. What was difficult is with teams, and we were a quarters league mainly, is you have these teams, the ball's snapped, and let's say I'm keying the free, and he just kind of sits here. So I'm thinking quarters, well, this guy's heading back here, but just gently.
That's a different way of looking at this. And it's interesting that you said that because there's 2 reasons for this. Number 1, the speed of the people on offense makes those guys declare. You show, and if your responsibility is double outside and 2, you can't be late.
Right.
So he's got to show it at the snap of the ball. What I would try and teach my quarterbacks, and I say, look, we got to know if it's 3 roll, if it's 3 roll, and they'd come out of the game and they'd say, you know, I never read 3 roll, and then you look at the film and you go, that's because they're slow, and number 1, they don't know where they're going.
Right.
They're playing the amoeba defense, but explain it that way. That I get this question from quarterbacks too. They go, I look at NFL film and I don't know what they're doing. There's 2 walk-ups on the weak side. We're going to get 5 off the weak side. Say, how do I beat that? Well, first thing is, I could get in the shotgun or I could move the pocket. Okay. But the second thing is, I could also stand in and throw a now bang slam if they're both coming off the edge. But it's defined. And the reason that it is defined is if you are not where you're supposed to be, somebody else will be playing your position.
Yeah, and that's why I'm really excited about it, is because you're exactly right. The speed that we had, and I mentioned we had the one guy that could really take advantage of this. I mean, if these guys were late, we got behind him, and we made a lot of money early on in the year with them doing that, taking deep shots. When he went down, we didn't have the speed to stretch the field. So it becomes more difficult.
That's discouraging.
And you can't make these guys declare as fast, but you're exactly right. In the NFL, I got to run as fast as I can over the top, because if this is Calvin Johnson and he gets outside that corner and I'm not there.
Well, does it surprise you to see Calvin Johnson running free sometimes? And I'd say he's the biggest, best target in the game. And what it comes down to is exactly what you put down there. Strong safety, you need to be over the top against number 81. But I need you to show low. You show low, take off, you're late. He catches a touchdown pass at the end of the game and you're going, wait a minute, if there was one guy in the stadium that we might need to double, it'd be that guy. Why are we late? Why are we late on the double? Well, we're showing this. Wouldn't it be easier to go make the double early and let's take him out of the play, not let him catch the ball? But that's a very interesting way to answer it. because you're going to see disguises. I mean, the NFL is a disguise league. But when the ball is